14. It takes a while for Willow to finally exhaust herself and become a dead weight over my shoulder. Kaz is ahead of us, still leading Yogi by the reins. Without the burden of anyone on his back, he seems to be coping better with the climb. We continue in silence for an hour or so, the rangy, stringy barks giving way to manna gums as we climb higher until the rocky crags of the ridge tower over us. The ground is steeper here, and Kaz pulls hard on Yogi's reins to drag him up. "Rest," she says as we come up beside her. I ease Willow off my shoulders. All the defiance has left her little body, though every now and then she chokes back a sob. Kaz sits down and takes Willow in her arms. "It's okay," she says. "We're going to be okay. We'll get you somewhere safe, away from those bad men, and then we'll wait there for your mum and dad. But you've got to be strong for us. You understand?" The day is wearing on, and I know we're going to have a rough night. At least it doesn't look like rain, but the clear sky means the temperature will drop away fast. The rocky outcrops are directly above us now. I can't see a way for us to climb much higher, let alone drag Yogi with us. Kaz sees where I'm looking. "We won't get up there," she says. "Not a chance." I know. I reckon our best bet is to go west. Stay at this level if we can and keep an eye out for anywhere we can climb. We'll rest here for a bit, then make our way across. There might be an overhang where we can get some shelter for the night. We sit in an exhausted silence. Huddled together, I get a chance to look at Kaz closely in the daylight. It's hard not to be drawn to the birthmark on her face. It spreads from her hairline down across her forehead and cheek on the left side. The rest of her face is darkly tanned and her skin is clear. Her hair is thick and matted, jet black like roses. But her body is leaner, her arms all sinew and tendon lacing down to large hands. There are calluses across her palms and fingers. Her clothes are torn, with glimpses of her dark skin peeking through. I find myself wondering where all her strength comes from. There seems too little of her to ride the way she does, or to drag Yogi up this hill. "Come on," Kaz says. "We've got to go." It's harder moving across the hill than climbing it. The ground is flinty underfoot, and we struggle to keep from falling. Willow is on Yogi's back, and while the horse keeps slipping, he always seems to ride himself without Willow falling. We continue like this for a couple of hours or so. It seems impossible that the day has passed so quickly, but the sky is beginning to darken and a chill is finding its way into the undergrowth. "Kaz," I say, "I'm going to climb higher up towards the cliffs and walk parallel to you. I'll keep you in sight. If I find shelter, I'll whistle." She nods and keeps walking. I begin clambering towards the cliffs. The ground flattens out at the base of the rock, so it's easy to keep pace with Kaz and Yogi. It's almost dark by the time I find a small overhang where the ground has been trodden flat, probably by animals looking for shelter. I whistle, and I hear Kaz begin to urge Yogi up towards me. It takes her a good 10 minutes to climb up. I have to lean down and help her drag Yogi the last few meters. Once he's on the flat, I take Willow off his back and put her down on the dry ground under the overhang. She pushes back against the wall and hugs her knees to her chest. Kaz wanders off to tether Yogi to a tree. I drop into the bush and collect as much bracken as I can hold. It won't be much, but it'll help keep the cold at bay. We can't risk a fire, not with Ramage's men after us. I spread the bracken on the ground and sit down next to Willow. She crawls in closer for warmth. Kaz eases herself down further along the wall. "I'm hungry," a small voice says against my chest. "Sorry, Wills," I say. "We might be able to catch something tomorrow." "What about the bread?" she says. "What bread?" "In your pocket." With everything that's happened, I'd totally forgotten about the bread I grabbed from the dresser before Willow and I escaped out the back door. The bread has crumbled in my pockets, but there is enough for each of us to have a small piece. "Your mum makes good bread, Wills," I say without thinking. Her chin drops to her chest with the mention of her mother, and even in the half-dark I can see her bottom lip start to quiver. Kaz moves over and puts her arm around her, and we squeeze her between us. Eventually, Willow lays her head down in Kaz's lap and closes her eyes. Before long, we can hear her steady breaths as she sleeps. "I'm going to have one last look about," I whisper to Kaz, "before it gets too dark." I retrace my steps for about 100 metres, listening for any movement below us. Apart from a breeze moving through the branches of the trees up on the ridge, the bush is quiet. Back at the overhang, I can just make out Kaz and Willow. I sit down next to them. "Is Rose okay?" Kaz asks. I close my eyes and think of the last time I saw her, propped up in bed, sipping soup. She wasn't great when I left her, had a fever, but I think she was getting over it. "And the baby?" "Okay, I think. It was kicking." "That's a good sign." She shifts her position, and I feel her shoulder against mine. "How far is Ankari?" "We can make it in a day if we get up on the ridge and find the track." She takes time to think this over. "Why did you come looking for me?" she says. "You were safe down there. Or at least, safer than anywhere else." "Rose would have come on her own if I hadn't tried. I couldn't let her do that. And she says she might be further along than she looks. 6 months, maybe." "I reckon more. Her boobs are big." She laughs. "She's always been flat as a pancake." She's quiet again until she says, "What do you think's happened back in the valley after we went?" "Who knows? I only hope Harry and Stella are all right. They were good to me." "Maybe Ramage will be more worried about chasing us than hassling them. It's us he wants." I peer out into the dark. I'm not sure that's so great. We've got a head start on them, but they know the country better than we do. Kaz lifts Willow off her lap and eases her between us. Then we lie down and snuggle in as close as we can. "Thanks," Kaz says. "For what?" "For helping Rose." As exhausted as I am, sleep is nearly impossible. The wind picks up and pushes harder through the treetops, its gusts filling the overhang with the sounds of the bush. I wake a dozen times throughout the night, each time taking a few seconds to work out where I am. It's freezing. Despite the bracken, the cold still pushes up through the earth underneath us. Willow snuggles in closer, burying her face in my jumper. Kaz reaches her arm over and holds us both. I do the same and feel the skin of her shoulder. It's cold and smooth and soft.